Welcome to another episode of Dad Can We Talk? I'm your host, Anthony Ray, and this is episode 45 of Dad Can We Talk, man. So we are still in the fifth season, and as I keep saying, man, I have so many great dads that I've been highlighting lately, and today is no different, man. I have a guy here that I met on one of our podcasting pages called Podcasting While Black. So if you're a podcaster out there, man, please go and check out that page. A lot of dope podcasts and a lot of dope podcasters on that page, man. So like I said, man, I met this man on there and I went and listened to one of his podcasts. He has a podcast called Speaking with Gravity, if I'm not mistaken. Speaking with Gravity. And man, listen, I listened to just one episode and it blessed me so much, man. If y'all can, go and follow his podcast, Speaking with Gravity. And the one that I listened to was about depression, and it was everything that I needed on that day when I listened to it. So it definitely blessed me. So I highly recommend y'all to go and find his podcast, Speaking with Gravity. But without further ado, man, I want y'all to welcome to the show my man, Kervin Searles. And hopefully I said his name right also.
Yeah, you got it.
Yes, sir.
Good job for you being able to do that right off the rip like that.
Yes, sir. So, man, I want to give a shout out real quick, man. I want to give a shout out to my man, T. Whitey, in 6 o'clock studios, man. I want y'all to go and follow his Facebook page also, man. Go and find 6 o'clock studios. And another shout out to Black Podcast, the Black Podcast Collective. I am now a part of the Black Podcast Collective. It's a collective of different podcasters. So go and follow that Facebook page also, man. A lot of great stuff going on in that community, man. So I just want to say that I'm so proud of all these Black podcasters out here, man. I'm loving it, bro. So, but yeah, I want to, if you can, man, give the people an introduction of yourself. Tell the people who you are.
All right. Like you were saying earlier, first of all, thank you for the intro. You got me hype over here.
Yeah.
But thank you for the intro. I am Kervin Searles. I'm in South Carolina. Okay. I am a mental health counselor, but I prefer the term therapist just because it sounds cooler than mental health counselor.
Yeah.
But I've done that for a little while now. And I have my own private practice Gravity Counseling Group. And because of that, we started a podcast just to kind of get our reach a little bit further than the town that I live in, which is not like a super small town, but it's not a super big town either. We got about 26,000 people here. And I'm able to provide services throughout the state of South Carolina. So just wanted to get it out there and just kind of put my hat in for podcasting. Got interested in that. I've always listened to not always. I guess as I get older, the thirst for knowledge is nonstop now. So yeah. I just find different ways to get knowledge, and podcasts, listening to podcasts was one of those. And I wanted to be a part of that, give out the little bit that I do know from time to time. But beyond all of that, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm somebody's son, I'm somebody's brother, I'm somebody's uncle. Okay. I'm pretty big family guy, not just in my immediate family, that the people that live with me, but beyond that, my extended family and my cousins and aunties and uncles. That's me in a nutshell.
Okay. I love it, man. Shout out to South Carolina, man. When I met my wife, she was up in South Carolina. She was in Bluffton and Beaufort.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right. Towards the coast.
Yeah, toward the coast, man. Okay. So when I first met her, that's what she was.
When she get mad at you, she talking a whole nother language, huh?
Well, no, because she's actually originally from Chicago. Okay. She said when she moved out there, she thought she moved to another country.
Yeah, that's how it goes. I love that area though.
Yes, sir, man. Yeah, I've been up there a couple times, and that language, man, I'm like, okay, go back to
Yeah,
Florida.
yeah.
But yeah, man, my first question I like to ask on the podcast is, what was your relationship like with your dad? I want you to talk about that.
It was good, man. He was for I want to say he was my best friend, but he was not my best friend. He was
Yeah.
definitely my daddy,
Okay.
and my big brother was more like my best friend. But it was great, man. My dad wasn't like he wasn't this guy that was like I'm more of a talker than he is. But he definitely imparted wisdoms at different times. We would have like family discussions every week. I don't know where he came up with this thought process, but literally I think it was every Tuesday, we would sit down as a family. And my dad was a preacher.
Yeah.
So he would give us a Bible verse and we'll discuss it. But then it's an opportunity for us as a family to talk about whatever.
Yeah.
And that was dope. I consider myself a basketball player. So
Yeah.
I got that from him because he was pretty good. He stopped, and obviously once he started young. My dad was 20 when he had me. So by the
Mhm.
time he was 28, 29, he had 4 kids. So he
Wow.
was he was still able to get, up and down the court and do that, but he wasn't doing it.
Mhm.
After me, I remember him taking me to the courts and stuff like that, like at 2, 3, 4 years old, however old I was, taking me to the courts, and I watched that then. This was like, well, I ain't gonna tell my age, but I watched that back then, and I wanted to be. I started wanting to be like him even then. I
Mhm.
remember him putting me on the shoulders, walking around with me, and I'm the second of four. So there are
Okay.
two other kids. Uh, and out of 4 kids, again, we talk about my dad. I never felt like I was the favorite or the least favorite. We were
Mhm.
all equal in his eyes, or at least we felt like that. I saw him go to work every day, 2 jobs, sometimes 3 jobs. Uh, Still go to church and preach. Uh, and I love music. He liked music. I wouldn't
Mhm.
say he loved it, but he was current. He knew what was going on at that time. And we always talked basketball, like I said earlier. We both are Michael Jordan fans. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan because of him. We will watch the old
Okay.
NFL tapes together. I even like Tony Dorsett because he liked Tony Dorsett.
Yeah.
Uh, y'all don't know who Tony Dorsett
Yeah.
is. Google him. He is a running back from the Dallas Cowboys from the mid to late 70s. Um,
Yeah.
so really got into sports just being around him. And of course, I like Earl, so and talked to him about that. And it was
Yeah.
comfortable talking to him. It wasn't like pretentious. I wasn't trying to say like the perfect thing. Even though
Mhm.
he was a preacher, he allowed me, I guess you could say, just to be me, just to be myself. We would dialogue about, certain things.
Mhm.
We had a great relationship, man. He passed away. I was 23. So
Wow.
I was a junior in college at the time. And truth be told, I was doing well in school. I had started working at a restaurant. It's Chili's. Hey, y'all got Chili's in Florida? Y'all
Yes,
got
sir.
Chili's in Florida. All right. So I started waiting tables there in college and actually started bartending. I don't think I told my dad that part. But they came to me and started talking to me about management. And so like I seriously was considering leaving school and just going into management. Because I just at that time I wanted to see the world, and I was like, all right, man, I'm gonna go work for Chili's. And I know Chili's is not like this place where you think the world, but in the same
Mhm.
token, I saw how they moved their managers around at that time. Like we would have somebody for 6 months, and then boom, they go to Florida, or they
Mhm.
gone to Chicago, or wherever they had places. And so I was thinking of seriously considering going into management. And then my dad passed away my junior year. And I was like, really enjoyed me being in college, going around and saying, hey, my son's in college. And I was like, I got to graduate for him. And I definitely ended up graduating, as a shout out to him or in his memory. And then that just kind of propelled me into the things that I've done.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, one thing I always love to hear those stories about the dads that were there, man. I wasn't blessed with that opportunity to have my dad there in the home with me, but I get enjoyment out of hearing other men talk about that, man, because it gives me hope, as a dad, knowing that that they, I grew up around so many guys that didn't have their dads like me. And it was always like, man, dad ain't never this, or dad ain't that. And to just hear another man talk about that relationship that he had with his dad, it gives me hope that one day my son might grow
Yeah.
up to talk about me in that same way, man. So yeah, I definitely condolences to you for your dad, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. But you know what I found weird, just living life. I hear guys talk about that, right? Who haven't, and of course I do know guys who haven't had their dad around. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what it was. A lot of my friends did have their dad around, similar to
Mm-hmm.
my dad.
Yeah.
So at first it was like, okay, I got my dad around, and even though I seen these images on TV and saw them in a newspaper, if I ain't gonna say it didn't connect with me, but that just wasn't me. And I would always
Yeah.
think, man, okay, I get that, but that's not my reality. But
Yeah.
then as I got older, I started realizing, okay, I was tremendously blessed.
Yeah.
It really is a lot of people out here who didn't have a chance to experience some of the things I experienced or some of my friends experienced. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
guess once I got into college or whatever, I started seeing, the longer I stayed in college, the more I started seeing guys from really different backgrounds who did
Mm-hmm.
experience and who didn't experience it.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely something different. But I believe that God allows all things to happen for a reason. And I can say today that me and my dad do talk almost. Maybe we talk every week now. And I made the step to go to my dad and make sure that I let him know that, man, bro, I still need you.
Yeah,
With me
yeah,
being
you,
in my 30s, I still need you, bro.
yeah,
You know,
you never stop needing them. Like I say, I was 23, and since that time I've gotten married. Since that time I've had kids, and sometimes I still have those moments, either whether I feel like crying, and I have actually cried since
yeah,
like it's
that's
been
real.
years, right? But you have those moments of, dang man, like he's not gonna ever see my son, my
Man,
daughter. Um, and I don't probably talk about him enough to my kids, but kids will get you, man. They will catch you
yeah.
slipping because they'll ask me a question. Then, very much like this podcast, I'll talk about it, and then they ask me another question, and then next thing you know, I'm going down memory lane because
Yeah,
they're wanting to know. They want to hear these stories,
yeah.
and I'm telling them these stories. And that's the one of the things that another gentleman told me was, and this is big. Do want to create memory.
Yeah,
Don't never
definitely.
forget that. I work a lot, or I have worked a lot throughout my kids' time growing up, and I've had to take time back and say, "Wait a minute, let me create some memories." And they can say, "You remember when we went on this trip? You remember
Mhm.
when we did this?" To this day, one of my best moments was just going to. There's a local piece of place, maybe 3 miles from my house, right? And I
Mhm.
was, told my wife, hey, I want to go to this pizza place as a family. And it's a really kind of dope spot, a typical family spot that people would go to. It's kind of upscale, even though it's a pizza spot.
Yeah.
And I remember my baby girl now, I think 5, who was like, Daddy, this is the best time ever we had. And I was like, what? And all we did was go eat pizza. But or they had like a band there. We were eating pizza. They had a band there, and we just kind of joking around and talking. And it's like, yeah, you kind of live for those moments as a dad. And I remember those. I actually remember those folks. I mean, those moments growing up. Have you ever heard of this place called Po Folks?
Oh,
Yeah,
no, I never heard of that.
I have it in Florida because I went to Panama City like last, and I ran across it. Right.
Yeah.
Well, we had one in Greenwood, and they're no longer in South Carolina.
Wow.
And I went ballistic when I saw it in Florida. I was like, yo. And I remember my dad always loving to go old folks. They
Yeah.
had these humongous chicken breasts and wings. He would always get this big old plate. You know, what?
Yeah.
But I went crazy when I saw it, man, just because it took me back to that memory and having sitting down eating dinner with mom and dad and my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely want to create those memories, man, whenever you get a chance. They don't always cost. You don't have to go to Six Flags. You don't have to
Straight
go
up.
to the Disney World. It could just be something simple. You never know what it is.
Straight up. That's real, man. That's why right before this, I told you I was running a little late, getting back home, man. I had to go run a few errands, and the kids were in the back seat. You know, they're on spring break right now, and they were just like sitting in the back seat. Daddy, I wish we can go here. Oh, I want to go over here. And I was like, man, you know what? They said something about the skate station, and the skate station was coming up while we were driving. And I'm like, man, I got about an hour and a half before I start this podcast. Let me go take them in here real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, all right, then. So when I made the turn, they were like, I heard them in the back seat whispering, like, oh my God, I think Daddy's about to take us to the skate station. When they seen me pull up, they were like, oh my God, I'm so excited, Daddy. We really love you, this and that. I'm like, okay. When you get home, you better be good.
yeah.
But yeah, I can definitely attest to that, like just the smallest things to us, the smallest things to them are sometimes the smallest things to us are the biggest things to them.
Yeah.
And that's something that I always tell dads, you don't have to go and spend all this humongous big amounts of money and stuff. Like kids don't remember that stuff. Kids remember moments, more than they remember gifts and things that you buy and stuff. They remember the times that you spent.
Absolutely.
But I wanted to ask you. You said that your dad was a preacher. What was your experience being a PC?
PK.
Preacher's kid. A PK.
PK.
What was that experience, man?
I don't know, man. My mom say I'm different. She don't like to say different. She says she's my unique son.
Yeah.
She has a twist. It doesn't bother me. A lot of times I hear people talk about the pressure that came along with it because you're supposed to be perfect. People expect for you to be this way, that way. I, in all honesty, really wasn't a bad kid. So I wasn't like trying to do the worst things in the world while my dad was trying to do the best things in the world. Like I wasn't that person. So and even to this day, like I still go to church regularly. Matter of fact, I'm a deacon in the church.
That's what's up.
I didn't necessarily want to be, but in the same token, I ain't running from it either. I mean, I'm a quote unquote leader in the community and other places. Why not be that in church as well?
That's real.
And then, with all the negativity that kind of comes along with that, I guess I probably have more pressure now than I did as my dad's son. My dad probably had more pressure than I did, even though I could never tell it. And he was just a straight up person. Like he wasn't like this. He didn't go around saying, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm blessed and highly favored. Not that he got anything against it, but that wasn't the first thing you seen in him. The first thing you're gonna see in him is a smile. 9 times out of 10. The second thing is he's talking about his family. Then he's talking about sports. Like it wasn't like, let me go preach to people. And I even I remember at his funeral, to this day I remember this. One of the guys he worked with, I didn't even know he was a preacher. And they weren't saying it in a bad way. They was like, yo, he was just really nice. he was this very nice, morals and like upstanding person. Didn't come off like, let me preach to you, let me talk to you about this. And that particular person just didn't know about it. But from my standpoint, outside of just having to go to church all the time, I didn't necessarily like that. I missed a couple of Super Bowls because I was at church. Definitely missed the prom because I was at church. There were a couple of Friday nights, a lot of dances that I missed because of church. But in that same token, man, I feel like it also gave me a great foundation. For better or for worse, those things that I missed, I actually got a chance to experience once I went off to college and was out of his house. But I was ready for it at that point. Not saying I'm not talking against anybody who allows their kids to do these things before college, but for me, I needed it. Some people call it, what they call that, not a slow, a late bloomer.
Late bloomer, yeah.
To some degree, I was a late bloomer, down to like just street smarts and stuff like that. And it was because my parents were so protective. And the other thing is, even though I'm speaking on my dad, and this is a dad podcast, my dad and my mom was together. And I saw how much my dad loved my mom. And so
important. Like, that's real.
When I talk about like, and I couldn't articulate this in college, right? Because that's when I really started looking like it went from just wanting to have a girlfriend to be seen, like thinking about marriage down the road. And I couldn't tell a girl, I couldn't articulate, hey, I want a relationship style kind of similar to my mom and my dad, whether you knew they had each other. You knew they was on one accord. They were like-minded on a lot of things when it came down to how to quote unquote raise us, whether or not to be in the church together, whether or not or date at 18. Like they got together and planned whatever they was going to plan with us. So if I'm talking to my dad and he gives me something, I know if I go to my mom, it's going to be the same thing. I go to my mom and I get to my dad, I already know. Now, that's not to say, like, I did try, probably before my dad passed away, I probably talked to my dad more than I talked to my mom. I don't know. I just went to him more. But they would make these decisions together. And if he made a decision in that moment, usually she was in agreement with it. He ain't gonna make no decision that he had to think that, okay, I don't know if she's gonna agree with this or not. So you knew that they had these conversations. Even when I remember now, I didn't really know it then, but I remember now when they had arguments, disagreement. I remember them going back into the room one way, coming out a whole nother way. And you don't hear no bumping in that. They ain't like they in there fighting. It's some real deep, meaningful dialogue and discussions going on back in that back room. And then when they come out, mom happy, daddy happy. It's all good.
Yeah, that's real.
So, but at that time, I couldn't process all of that. You 12, you 13, you 15, 16. You're not really processing. I understood, like they definitely knew. They definitely communicated. I do couples counseling, right? Yeah. Communications is probably the biggest thing.
All right, talk about it.
Yeah, my mom and dad probably should write a book of communication. They definitely was on one accord with that. I think he gave way to her sometimes. I think she gave way to him sometimes. Everybody wants to win. I don't even think people realize that. Even when you in that relationship, sometimes you just want to win either that argument or win on that point or win on the decision that's made. Like, right now, me and my wife thinking about buying a car. I want to buy the car that I want to buy.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure she want to buy the one she want to buy. And if we only look at it like that, it's going to be an argument, number one. And number two, it can get real ugly because we're not thinking about the root of it. The root of it is this: one person want to buy one car and one person want to buy another car. If we really look at it like that, we can get to the root. We can get to a solution. We just looking at what's being said in that moment or at different times. We lose sight, and then we end up hurting each other. Again, like that movie, Malcolm and Marie, where they just going back and forth, and it ain't even about what the initial thing was. But wait a minute, how did we get over there? We was talking about how preachers get, right?
I can't wait to see your episode about that movie though. We can't out. I ain't even gonna go there. But man, if we was to go there, man.
Yeah.
But yeah,
preacher's kid, man. It wasn't that big of a deal. Like I said, my dad he walked the walk and not just talk. Right.
Yeah.
And so the expectation was that his kids do the same. So whatever he expected out of me, I knew that if he expected me to respect somebody, not only did he respect other people, but he respected me as well, even though I was his kid. Right. Yeah. He ain't expect for me to curse. He don't curse. He ain't expect for me to be a hypocrite. He's not a hypocrite. Yeah. Like it was so in that, and I knew when I was doing wrong, I knew I was doing wrong. Yeah. I knew I was going to accept the consequences. I ain't gonna tell too much on this podcast, but man, there's been some moments where I knew, like, I broke curfew. I already knew what the consequence was, and as soon as I walked through the door, there goes the consequence. And I mean, it wasn't like it was to the extreme. It was just consistent. He was the epitome of consistency when it came down to discipline. Yeah, I don't know if it was because he was a preacher kid, but he was definitely consistent.
Yeah. And see, I'm trying to, that's been one of the things that I've been dealing with my own children, man. My wife and I, we just talked about this maybe like 2 days ago because I got a 7-year-old, almost 8-year-old. She'll be 8 next month. So basically an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And these kids almost seem like, bruh, it just, sometimes I put my hands up and I'm just like, Lord, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know how to get through to them. And man, so my wife and I, we were just talking about discipline the other day, just saying, we just think we need to be more consistent with the discipline. And at times, I don't know if I'm consistent. I just don't, it's just so hard because at times, like,
you got girls or boys?
I got 2 girls and a boy.
And the boy is the baby?
The boy is the middle. So he's 5. And then I got the 4-year-old daughter and basically an 8-year-old daughter.
Okay. Yeah. The girls are hard to discipline. Number one. Girls. They're daddy's girls, right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to just give you this phrase. The easy way is ultimately the hard way. The hard way is actually the easy way. Yeah. So the easy way is, you know what, my kids, they're encouraging, they're mannerable. Let me just get in what they want. But that's going to create a problem for you later on as you get older because what they want is going to continue to increase. Yeah. And I don't care unless you Bill Gates to somebody, you ain't going to be able to get him. And even with him, he ain't going to be able to get him everything you want. You can't guarantee that they're going to be healthy. You can't guarantee that they're going to have the man that they want in their life. Yeah, straight up. You can't guarantee. There's some things that you just can't guarantee, right? And so if you set that pattern of giving them what they want, eventually they're going to come across something that they can't have. And that may break them mentally. That may cause them to act out mentally. They may cause them to rebel because they're not getting what they want and they're used to it. That's the easy way because, my kids are already cool. They ain't mess with nobody. Let me just do what they want me to do, right? But the hard way, which is actually, I don't want to say punish, but I could say punish. Yeah. Punish them, give them consequences, react to the actions that they have had. However you want to set it up, however you want to put it. Our way is to respond accordingly when they do something that you are not in approval That's hard, but ultimately it becomes the easy way because now, as I told you, my dad was consistent. I already knew what the story was. Yes, I still did some things which may have made to him, it may have seemed like, man, that boy don't care. He didn't care. Willing to sacrifice that consequence to get what I want in that bit of time. Now I didn't do that often. I wasn't trying to hear all that. But I got siblings. They probably did it more than I did. But that consistency kind of gave him a range of he knew what kid laid it out there what he wanted, what he expected, and he delivered accordingly to that expectation.
That's real, man. That's some good stuff. I'm definitely gonna try to put that. I've been the last few days. I've been trying to put it into action. Took all the toys out the room. I'm like, I'm gonna just take the toys. You like toys? I'm gonna go put the toys in the garage. Ain't no more toys in the house for right now. And just trying to be consistent with that. And yeah, it is hard sometimes, but I'm like, I got to, because if I don't, as they're getting older, I'm starting to see, they just, man, bro, it is like, I'm like, man, okay, I gotta try to nip this in the bud now, because I know if I don't, then that's only gonna create more problems, and that's something that I've been seeing in my home. But I want to talk about, what was your first reaction, man, when you first found out that you were about to be a dad?
Man, I'm probably not gonna give you the response you wanted this one. It wasn't a big deal when I first heard about it, right? And I don't know if it's just because of who I am. We did have some difficulty in the beginning. My wife is a part of this story. I don't know if she's listening to this podcast, but it'll eventually come up at some point. But we've had miscarriages. Prior to, I have 4 kids, so I had a son before me and my wife had a child. And so, I knew about that. That was brought to me. And it was okay. That's my first. And I wasn't in a relationship with that person. We were cool, but I wasn't in a relationship with them. And so that's a totally different thing than when you are with somebody, in love with this person. And then with my wife, like, I was really expecting to be with her for the rest of my life. Like, at that point, I knew what I wanted. Right? It wasn't like I was 20 or something and I like her and I could be married to her. It's like, this is what I'm gonna do.
All right.
But even still, it was like a deal to me. But once, I was there throughout the whole process. And once my wife, my second, and my oldest is a boy, and I wasn't there for that event. And that probably took the experience with him would have been different had I been there for that whole process, but I wasn't, right?
Yeah.
And with my wife, I was there for that whole process. Everything from the beginning to the end. And so when the actual delivery came, even though I heard about it, she told me, I'm pregnant. I was like, okay. And my immediate thought was, all right, let me make preparations to provide. Providing was the first thing in my mind. That was it. But once my son was born, everything else was just flat. Oh, man, small. Oh, man, do he look like me?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to play basketball together. We're going to do this together. Yeah. And ironically, my son, he'll look at sports, but he's not into sports, right? Me and my son are not like me and my dad. Me and my dad have very similar interests. My son don't. Now, the coolest thing to me is as he's gotten older, our relationship has similar to me and my dad, where I feel like when I'm talking to him, he's actually listening, even though he don't agree. Sometimes he's actually listening. But in that moment, I'm trying not to get away from your question. I ain't know, like, even with this with the podcast, I knew I listened to a couple of yours as well. I didn't realize I was gonna get emotional just talking about it, because I mean, it's not like, usually when I'm on a podcast and I'm as a guest and talking about mental health and I'm passionate about it, but that's my work, right?
Yeah.
This is my family. This is my life.
Yeah, your life.
This goes beyond my work. This is my life. If I don't ever do any more therapy, this is still my life.
Straight up. That's real.
If everything's taken away from me, this is still my life. I still have kids. I still have a wife. So it's totally different talking about this, because I love this. Like, I love my life.
Yeah, that's real.
But going back to your question, just to hear, hey, we're pregnant. Nah. Now, and that was really for every situation. Like, I went through this 4 times.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Well, the third time, which is my first daughter, it was a little bit of excitement, because we decided we were not going to try to find out the sex of the baby.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to wait until that event. And so from beginning to end, it was just, what are we going to have? What are we going to have? We didn't have, y'all do reveal parties now. I say y'all, but the world does gender reveal. We didn't do that at all.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So just the initial announcement, it was okay.
Yeah.
I got another one.
Yeah, man. And I like to talk about that type of stuff because, like I say, I believe the narrative that's been surrounding Black fatherhood for so long is always, Black dads don't really care to be there for their children. Black dads and this and Black dads that. And I'm like, no, I can't say that. Like, that's not like how you said that, your experience wasn't, not being around, not having your dad and your friends didn't grow up like that. For me, it's like when I hear that Black dads aren't there, I'm like, that ain't really their experience, because I'm in my children's life every day, and I got all of my friends, they're in their children's lives every day. I got brothers and cousins who are in their children's lives every day. And I'm like, I mean, they say all this stuff about Black dads, and I understand that there are some dads that aren't there. I do understand that. And there are some women that do have to still pick up, bear the weight of raising children on their own. But I'm like, from what I see, the guys that I'm around and the guys that I meet, I'm like, man, I know some great Black dads who love their children, like literally love their children. Some of them live in the house with their children. Some of them don't live in the house with their children. Some of them don't even live in the same state as their children. But these men I know make every effort to make sure that their children are taken care of. And I'm just like, I just love to hear, especially hear Black dads talk about their love for their children, because it's amazing, and I believe it goes against the narrative that the media has put out there for so long, about us. And I'm just like, man, we're going to dispel that myth, and we're going to rise above that. And when I started this podcast, I was like, man, you know what? I'm going to bring on every dad that I know right here in my community and allow them to tell their story. And as it started with just, I'm going to do right here in my community.
Yeah.
Then I started meeting people like you, online. And I'm like, man, I love to hear this guy's story. I brought on like 2 guys from Seattle. I had a guy come on from Virginia. And I'm like, man, we're everywhere, man.
You really, man, you're on to something. I don't know if you realize that or not. Just to be able to try to change that narrative, you're on to something. And to get, everybody has a story.
That's real.
I tell people all the time, one of my guilty pleasures in life was the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Yeah.
And she had this episode that I'd never forget about everybody has a story. and she literally went, and I wish I could see that show again, but she went and just random people and just got their background. And, for you're looking at like fathers, but you're actually getting the story that's attached to them too. Because when we start talking about dads don't care about their kids, everybody's situation is different. My oldest son and his mother, there was a stuff behind that I don't want to disclose, but there are things that behind that. So it's like our relationship I think me and her had this discussion. It wasn't like an argument or anything like that. I always knew if I'm not going to be the person that I'm child with, I can never be the total dad that I wanted to be. And the reason that I always said that was because I knew what my dad was to me. He was in the home. He was completely there. So even if me and her had the best relationship in the entire world, I still wasn't going to be there 100%. Like I am with my other 3 children, no matter what I did. Some people would disagree. I could probably go tit for tat or toe for toe with them on that discussion. But that we might end up agreeing to disagree. But you can only do so much, and that's a lot now. Outside of the home that you can do in the home, and then yes, or anybody say anything, yes, you can be in the home and not do crap. You can't do that.
That's real.
So, but just you having different people on, if somebody is listening to your podcast week after week after week, they can get a feel for what they want to be. There's a research that was done about you're a product of your environment, right? But what they don't tell you is you can create your own environment. You can change your own environment within the environment that you live in. So I actually grew up in the quote unquote hood. I didn't really realize I was in the hood until I got out of it. Then it was like, whoa, I was in there. But my parents did a pretty darn good job of changing that thought process, even while I was living in there. And then, even with the people that I was living around, like I wasn't scared of nobody in my neighborhood. It wasn't like that. It was love in my neighborhood, just as it is anywhere else. The neighborhood I'm in now. So it was just as much love in my neighborhood that I grew up in that I reside in now. Just a few things, few minor things that might have happened back in the day that might not happen over here. But
that's real though, man. That's real. So for all my listeners out there, man, for y'all, if y'all ever hear somebody trying to keep that narrative going, send them to Dad Can We Talk, man. I got a plethora of dads, from all different backgrounds. I had about 3 or 4 white dads that came on, man. Just dads in general. Another thing that I noticed about the narrative that people had about fatherhood, you think about dads on movies. Dads were always like they were painting us in this picture, like the mom is like, hey, I'm about to go out to the grocery store. Can you keep the kids? And then when the mom comes back home, the whole house is burnt down. And I'm like, why they always paint us like that? Like we just goofballs, like we can't take care of the children. And, and I was just like, man, I never liked the picture that was painted, because from my experience, it just wasn't me. My wife can go anywhere. Man, my kids are with me probably more than they're with my wife, That's just what type of dad I am. It ain't nothing against a woman or my wife or anything. It's just my kids are always with me. And I know a lot of other men that are like that. When my kids were little babies, I was changing diapers. If we're out somewhere, I could take them to the bathroom, the restroom with the little panda thing, change diapers and make sure they're good. And, and I'm like, we're important too.
And that creates a bond. That creates a bond to be able to do those things. you remind me of my brother because I got two brothers. One just had a baby, but I got
Yeah.
another brother. He's had several babies. But he was that guy. He can do anything. He can cook, feed them, change them, and I could too. I just didn't. I didn't take to that. Like
Yeah.
the smaller they are, the less I want to have to do because I didn't want anything to go wrong.
Yeah.
But I also know how important, and I think God should be aware of this, how important it is to give moms a break.
Yeah.
They
That's
have
real.
the child, they're responsible. They're probably more responsible in general. They're more responsible for the child the smaller they are than you.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong with a 3-month-old, they're looking at mama.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong with that 16 or 17-year-old, yeah, they look at the
Yeah.
mama, but they looking at
They're
daddy
looking
too.
at that. Yeah.
Was daddy around? Did daddy teach him? You
Yeah.
know, even though these are the decisions that the kid can make, they're looking to see was there a father figure
Yeah.
around and what that father figure did. The older they get, the smaller they are, the more it's on the mom. And to be able to give that mom a break, you'll find yourself, the mom will be want to keep you around.
Yeah.
If you want to be kept around, be able to help mom out instead
All
of
right.
being the extra child that the mom got to take care of.
That's
But
real.
that's a whole other story too, man. I
That's
get
real.
kind of passionate about that too because um, there are some guys out there, if they're being really honest, that would say, "Hey, man, teach me how to be a man."
All right.
Because being a man is more than just going to work. It's more than just
Mm-hmm.
bringing that money home. It's
Mm-hmm.
knowing when to lead and when to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
It's knowing when to be the disciplinarian and when to show love.
Yeah.
Not saying that discipline is not love, but when you think of discipline, you ain't thinking of love in that moment. You thinking, dang,
Yeah.
I'm getting consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Also shows you when you need to actually show that love. My sister, she puts this on. Come, my dad's not here anymore, so come Valentine's, she'll often share this story how she was in the middle school, all the girls getting things from their significant others in middle school,
Yeah.
and she didn't have a boyfriend. And my dad don't know what possessed him to do this, but he did it. Comes to the school, delivers flowers, and they call
Okay.
her up to the office, and she's got like flowers. So
Yeah.
now she's like
Yeah.
somebody. And she said it changed her whole, like, I didn't even know this until we were adults. But it's like, dang, man, my dad was really dope to think about
Yeah.
that. I wouldn't have, if my sister hadn't shared that with me, I wouldn't have known that. Which, of course, that led me because I knew he did it and she spoke on it. Now, when Valentine's come, I don't just get from my wife, I get from my two other daughters. But my
Yeah.
daughter's 6. All she knows is she get the gift.
Yeah.
Had it. And then the 12-year-old. So like when there's, with the exception of Mother's Day and my wife's birthday, anytime I get my wife
No, that's real. And that's something that they'll remember,
yeah.
Um, one thing I always say, I really want my daughters, as they get older and as, they're looking for a husband one day. And I want for them to look at the relationship that they have with me, and how their dad treated them, to be that standard,
Yeah.
to really show them. And like, I just really want them to know what a real man look like, like you saying, like with your dad, like that, your dad doing that for your sister was everything for her,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it might seem small, like, oh, okay, yeah, he bought some flowers. Oh, okay, cool. But like to that daughter, that's like, man, he thought about me, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and it was a gift. And one thing my wife always tells me, and she get on me about it all the time because her love language, one of her love languages is receiving gifts. She loves that. And so sometimes, when we're about to get gifts for people, I'm just like, man, just give them some money or something. I don't know, let them go get their own gift. And she like, but that ain't no gift. When you give someone a gift comes from the heart. In order to give somebody a gift, you got to know them. You got to know what they like. And I'm just like, man, it is not that serious. And she stands by that stuff. And, I'll be hearing out and I be taking notes. I act like I don't know at the time, but I be taking notes so I can be like, okay, boom, I'm gonna hit her with something in the next couple of days, where I just like to listen to it, but everything she be saying should be so real. Yeah. And, for your dad to do that, that's everything, because it's like, oh, okay, I ain't even gonna tell her this. And that one thing right there could like take her to a whole other level, just one act of love, to show her that she's cared for, to show her that she's loved. And man, for all the dads out there with daughters, man, set that example, because
that's a lesson from the grave.
Yeah.
Because we never had a discussion. I didn't know that when she was in school that they had done that. So Crazy. For her to be able to share that story was almost him teaching me in that moment from the grave how to father my child.
Yeah.
Like, that's dope. Like let me think about that. We don't know when we're gonna leave here. Straight so up. every move we make, everything we do should be intentional. Because we basically set in a standard.
That's real.
We set in a lifestyle as we know it, the best we know how. If they learn some things after the fact, cool. Yeah. But they can get their foundation from us.
That's real. That's so real, man. All y'all fathers out there, man, take notes. That's free game right there. I want to go here. Man, why do you believe it's so hard for men, especially in the Black community? Why do you think it's so hard for us to ask for help? When we know we need help, man, why is it so hard for us to just be like, hey, bro, I'm going through it. I need some help.
Man, I think a lot of questions comes with a lot of different answers. Of course, there's the one thing it's a sign of weakness to be able, like, if you just look at like the rap game, how many people come out, no matter how popular they become, come out, well, once they become so popular, they may go back. Most of the times when they come into the game and they're getting that traction, how many of them you hear them say, yeah, man, I asked for help. No, I got it out the mud. I was grinding. I was just doing it. Like everybody feel like I just gotta figure it out. I just gotta figure it out. That's one thing, like a sign of weakness, or it's considered a sign of weakness. But I'm gonna also say, and I'm probably gonna hold more to this than anything, a lot of times, man, we don't know who to get help from. We obviously don't think about therapy and therapists. There have been moments in therapy, like I'm just we dialoguing. You just said a minute ago, hey, he gave you free game. Like, whatever I know, If somebody come in therapy with me, whatever I know, So if let's say if somebody was trying to get into the rap game, I'm dealing with anxiety. Let's say I'm dealing with it. So anxiety and him getting on the stage and being able to perform, right? If I know a producer, then you know that producer. And when I say that, it's not like I'm gonna send you to that producer. Just me knowing that producer might be able to, that producer might tell me something about changing up a beat or something, right? I'm gonna give you that, because technically I may not be able to pass you off to somebody that I know, like a conflict of interest. Right? But anything that I know from that person, you would know. Yeah. And so that's a form of help beyond just what you came in for. But then in addition to that, when my dad passed away, again, I was 23 years old. I hadn't even gotten married yet. I didn't know who to go to look toward be a father figure. Now, I was tremendously blessed to have met, probably met a lot of guys, but I can count on one hand. There are a couple of guys that are close to me now that are older than me, younger than my dad, but too old, like hanging out with me. Right. So they were able to give me like valuable wisdom. When I first got married, I had to learn how to sit down because I was used to moving, used to going out when I wanted to go out, coming back when I wanted to come back. And, that's a simple thing. My dad never did that. I never saw that part of him, right? He's not here to call me on it. So I'm sitting up here doing this and probably should be doing it. And to my wife's credit, it wasn't like it was an issue in the house. She was never like, hey, why are you doing this? But before it became an issue, it was a discussion that I had with seasoned people, right? Just by them being in my circle. So when you say, why we don't ask for help? I didn't ask for that help, but I had the right people around me. Then as I got older, the older I get, the more willing I am to ask for help. Like now, if I need something, got probably 3 guys that I can call right now and be like, hey man, I got a question about this. I got Google. Yeah. But I also got this experienced person that I can connect with that's gonna keep it quote unquote real with me. Yeah. They're gonna give me all of it. They ain't gonna just give me nuts and bolts. They're not just giving me figures. They're gonna give me everything. Matter of fact, I had a hot water heater that I was looking for last year. I'm just thinking numbers, like how much it's gonna cost me. And I'm looking at stuff, and then I'm talking to him. He was telling me about a brand. But once he told me about the brand, then he came to my house to look to see where my hot water heater was. Like, hey man, you don't want it over there. You need to put it over here because it'll last longer if you put it in this area. And I'm like, man, it don't cost a whole bunch of money to switch it from where it was. Nah, you just do this and you do this and you do that. Yeah. Now I got a new hot water heater and it's gonna last me longer because I had to put it back into the original spot that it was in. I was only gonna get so many years out of it based off of their experience. Yeah. Like stuff like that. Like Google not gonna tell me that. No. Google not gonna think, hey, where is it at? They just gonna give you the price at it. Yeah. Like it's only so much Google can tell you because they don't. I wouldn't have known to ask that question, but that experienced person gave me game. Yeah. So to answer your question, I would probably lean more towards you don't. And then the other thing is that I'm saying it on the podcast, but I doubt very seriously that person. Yeah, man, I went to Kervin house and helped him get a hot water heater, and I had him move. Yeah. He ain't told nobody. So when you asking for somebody for help, you don't want necessarily that person to just say, hey, such and such came to me and I gave them this game. So not only do we not know who to go to for help, but, we don't want it always to get out. We're asking for help. Not necessarily because of a weakness. You don't want everybody to know. Yeah, that's real. That's real, man. And that's something that I've been over the years, just trying to just be more comfortable with, when I know I got a question, I think that pride in me makes me feel like, man, I don't want him to know that I don't know this, or I don't want him to feel like, I be asking too many questions, just always in my own head thinking, like, man, he might think something, think this about me. And I'm just like, and then when I would finally get out of my head and just go ask for help, I found that most men are willing to help you out, especially when it's someone that you're looking up to, like with my with my former pastor, I would want to go ask him certain things at times, but I would be scared, like, man, I don't want that man to think, I don't know this right. So I'll try to figure stuff out on my own and end up getting myself into a deeper hole than when I originally should have asked him. And then I go ask him, and now he got to help me dig out of this deep hole that I've dug for myself. And then he like, why you ain't been asking me? Why you ain't? And I'm like, man,
I was about to, and now I got to hear his mouth about that because he's like, bro, what you mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, I just trying to get to a point to where if I know I need help with something and I'm in a situation, if I know I have a friend here who has this wisdom, man, just open your mouth and just say that, and that's something that I, in my years of doing mentoring and stuff, I'm always trying to tell young men, bro, if you don't know it, you just don't know it. When I talk with younger dads, I mentored this one young guy and he came over to my house with his newborn and the baby was crying. And I could tell that he didn't necessarily know what to do, but he was trying his hard. And I was just sitting there looking at first. I'm like, this joker needs some help, but he ain't going to ask me. So I watched him for a little while. And then I was like, hold up, brother. I took the baby for him and I showed him a couple things. I'm like, man, sometimes, when the baby crying like that, sometimes lay them down on their stomach and rub their back. Just rub the back, bro. And as I went to doing that, the baby stopped crying. And he was like, man, hey, I appreciate you, bro. And I'm like, of course, man. Like, I know you needed help. Why you should have just been like, he was like, just explaining to me how he hasn't really had that experience with the baby like that yet. And he was like, it's a lot of stuff I don't know. And I'm like, I know. I've been there too. Like, it was a lot of stuff I didn't know. I learned this stuff from experience, bro. I got 3 babies. This your first one. Bro, if you need help, ask me.
And when you say, when we talk about how dads don't care or whatever, if he didn't have that experience with you, that could have turned him off from going to pick the baby up. Man, every time I get the baby, I don't ever know what to do. And it's not that he didn't care. He don't know what to do, nor do he know who to ask. And he ain't, we don't look at it like we do everything else. You might not know how to play football, but you keep getting out there, you're gonna learn something, right?
All right.
But we don't look at everything like we don't simplify everything like that. We just be like, man, I don't know what to do. That could deter him. But the fact that he had you as a mentor blessed him in ways that he probably don't even know. Like it goes beyond just that baby in that moment, calming her down, and him knowing to do it the next time. It goes to him being able to not only know what to do, but because he know what to do, spending more quality time bonding with that child.
That's real.
When you bond with that child gonna take to you just as much as you take to them. Now they're gonna reach out to you. Now you got a conscience when you ain't around them. It just kind of keep going and going and going. And then the other thing too, man, when you talk about that, I think what has helped me as I've gotten older too is I see how willing I am to tell what I know. Then it's like, well, if I'm like that, other people like that. Because you can't, like, I used to think that I knew a lot about like women.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't do nothing with that.
Yeah.
I can't do nothing with that. I'm just gonna die, right? What am I gonna do with all the knowledge that I got?
Yeah.
The little bit that I've acquired. So I ain't got nothing else to do but to give it away. And if you're the smartest person, as they say, if you're the smartest person in the room, that's a problem.
Yeah. That's real.
You need to go somewhere. You need to go to another room. So, don't be, for anybody out there listening, and I got to take my own advice, don't be scared to ask questions.
Straight up. And nothing wrong with, and we all learned it back in school, in our school days. Teachers would always tell us there's no such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah, I disagree with that, but still. Okay.
Now, there are some stupid questions, but we're going to put that out there. But if you got a question, just ask it. Literally, just ask it. Now, you might find out
stupid,
that it's
if it's stupid, you'll learn that too.
You'll learn that. So don't ever be, discouraged from asking that question, because you might find out in the process of you asking the question that is stupid.
Yeah.
But if you don't ever ask it, you will never find out that it's stupid. You'll just never know. So, you got to ask the questions, man. You have to. But I want you to give your a tip. Give the listeners out there, for the ones that are married, man, what's your number one thing, and I think you talked about it earlier, but what's your number one thing in marriage to have a successful marriage for those that are married or looking to be married?
Uh, yeah, I think you were talking about when I talked about it earlier. I think you was leaning towards communication, right?
Yeah,
Um, that is important. That is really, 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 really important. Not what I'm going to say though.
yeah.
What has helped me because I'm a therapist by
Hmm.
trade, right? So you would think that I know how to communicate. You
Yeah.
would think,
Hmm.
and even me and my wife had issues with it, but I've gotten like really, really a whole lot better. I would say good. I don't know if she would agree,
Yeah.
but I would like to think that she would. But what I saw a turning point in our relationship when I quit looking at what she was doing wrong or what she was doing that I didn't like, and I start focusing on what she was doing right and what
Mm.
I like about her.
Mm.
If you always looking at, well, you know what, you could have washed these dishes before you went to bed, and I'm used to my mom washing the dishes before she go to bed. If you're always looking at that, that little minor thing can turn into something greater.
Right.
Or that little nagging thing that you're talking about. Now, when another issue comes and you're nagging about that, before you know it, you're nagging about 6 or 7 or 8 things on a daily basis that's taken away from the good times that y'all would have on
Hmm.
a daily basis. So focus on the good that they do. Like my wife is a good mother. She's a good she's a good mother, man. She allows me to be able to move and maneuver how I move. Like right now, I'm at home. I haven't heard my kids. I know they here.
Yeah.
She knew I had this podcast, and so and I do them pretty. I ain't gonna say I do them probably about once or every other week,
Hmm.
and I'm quote unquote taking time away from the family, right, to do these because at different times of the day, different parts of the day.
Mm.
But gathering the kids up, let him go do his thing. And it ultimately is going to benefit her in the end. I don't know. I might get a client from this. Somebody
Yeah,
might hear
that's
me
real.
uh, and want to come check out services. But beyond that, like she's planned things. She, I have my own private practice, and I think she's a big part of that because she don't want me to just have something. She challenges me to think it all the way through. I'm a Sagittarius, right? I have these big ideas.
Yeah.
And with having these big ideas, sometimes you just have the idea. All right, well, the idea there has to be a plan associated with that. You got to work through that.
Hmm.
Challenges me to do that. So I have to concentrate on the benefits brought. Besides, she looks good on my arm. She makes me look better. I'm
Yeah.
an ugly dude, right? Then I got my wife with me, and it's
Yeah.
like, whoa. And then I
Okay.
got my beautiful family because of
Yeah.
her. Yeah, that's just the physical side.
Yeah.
You go, and then she pushing me and supporting me to be able to go and do the things I do. I don't know if I could get there from everybody.
Mm.
So the number one thing is quit concentrating on the negative things and concentrate and focus on the positive. That's not to say
Okay.
that you push it down and you don't ever recognize it. My wife know what my pet peeves are,
Mm.
but if she does a pet peeve, she doing it for a reason, and she's doing it because she ain't. Everybody's resistant to change. People are resistant to change. But
Hmm.
if you were resistant to change, what make you think somebody gonna change because you said so?
Mm.
They were living in this world prior to them meeting you,
Yeah.
and now all of a sudden they're gonna change because they met you. And in some cases, certain things will happen, but not everything.
Hmm.
And if they did change everything, is that the person you really want to be with?
Yeah.
You
That's
change
real.
everything about them. So focus on the things that the positive things, the good things, the good times, as opposed to the bad times or the negative things.
That's real, man. That's so real. Hey, listen again, y'all, for my listeners out there, free game. Listen, if you are married, man, this man is speaking to me, So I'm gonna take heed to that because that's something that I know I can be better in. For any of the listeners out there, man, y'all listen, man. We ain't just talking. This stuff is from experience, man. People who've been married. I'm telling you, for those out there that might be looking to be married one day, man, just take this. Please try your hardest to put this stuff into action. I promise you. Like everything thing this man just said is so true. And I know it's true because I've done these things at times. And I know it works. Man, that's perfect right there. Perfect answer because and I know I feel like God had you say that for me. So that's real. That's super real, man. I got one more question I want you to answer about this, man. Well, what do you think the black community could work on as far as mental health goes, man? How do I want to say it, man? Like how can we be mentally healthier? What things could we do to help ourselves be everybody always talk about physical health, being physically healthier and all these things, but how can we be healthier mentally in our community?
Um, you switched that question up on me. You was gonna go one direction and then you switched it and went in another direction. Uh, to answer your question though, how can we be mentally well? Uh, and I said it earlier. I don't know if we were talking online or offline when I said this, but being intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Um, your entertainment diet. What do it look like? What shows am I watching? What did my timeline look like? I'll never forget. I was with a colleague at work, and you at work. This is before I had my private practice a few years ago. You at work, you pull up your Facebook or whatever. At the time, Facebook was fairly popular, and it was like, "Hey man, your timeline don't look like mine.
Yeah.
It ain't ratchet. It ain't got all the fighting and all the this and all like that. Like, okay, I didn't really think about it, but you know, your clickbaits, your computer and different platforms, they recognize what you're hitting like on, what you're constantly watching videos on. If I'm always watching somebody twerking, consistently get those videos.
Real.
Consistently get those videos. You think they're gonna make me look at my wife differently?
Yeah.
Maybe. But if I'm clicking on videos to better myself, say again, I love mental health. I love psychology. I love helping people. So a lot of times I'm going to look at something that a psychologist got to say. A psychologist got to say. So I'm up on medical terms, medical management, medication management. So I'm up on different types of therapies. So I can know what's going on in the world. In the world of psychology or in the world of mental health. A lot of times that comes back to my timeline. I'm curating my entertainment diet to benefit me. Now that's not to say that I don't watch certain stuff at certain times. I just don't do it often. Even with TikTok, you have to be careful. Like I'm on these different flat platforms. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Snapchat. Not on it all the time, but when I am, I try to make sure whatever platform I'm on, I'm clicking specific stuff to look at so that I keep my mind in a certain manner. We talk about meditation. What are you doing? You're clearing out the clutter. You're taking time away to clean up things. When we talk about physical health, now, even what you put inside of your body actually affects your mind. It really affects your mind what you put inside your body. Exercise is probably one of the most underrated forms of antidepressant, exercise. When
Wow.
you exercise, it naturally gives out, forgot more word, endorphins, I think it is, naturally gives those out to help boost your mood, right? As opposed to you're going into those depressive symptoms. Typically, what happens is you're stagnant, or you just want to lay there. You just want to be like, you ever come home from a long day's work and you just want to sit there and just TV. It's just over. And then that can get like that in life itself. But you have to be intentional about not only your entertainment diet, but your physical diet, and then the exercise you do. Nature. Nature is one of those things. Sometimes I hate it for people that's in the city in South Carolina where I see a lot of green grass and trees. And it amazes me. My wife is not from here. Sometimes when she have family come in town, it's like, whoa, y'all got trees. Y'all got land. And they're in this city. And they're used to seeing like concretes and buildings and stuff like that. And I was watching something on Netflix, documentary, where the kids were, it was a coach kids football. I forgot the name of it. He took them out of the city and brought them to like wooded areas where they was camping and stuff like that. I hate camping, by the way. But he brought them out there and it was a whole different world for those kids. And it's like, wow. But it changed, it has an effect or influence on their mind. Everything affects everything. If you look at it like that, everything affects everything. Everything affects my mind. If you look at it like that, whatever my mind entertains, it becomes. What is your mind entertaining?
That's real. That's real right there, man. Listen, y'all better pay attention, man. Pay attention because, man, this is something that I'm gonna take all of that because I can attest to um a lot of those things, man. I've been telling myself I want to get back into exercising because I find myself so busy with work and school and the kids and all of these things. And like last year, like I've always played basketball. That was always my thing. Man, I think last year, I think I played basketball 2 times out the entire year. And I didn't notice it until like the end of the year. I was like, dang, bro, I haven't been to the court. And it's just like I felt like I lost myself. And I came into this year telling my wife, like, man, I really want to get back, to exercising and just getting back active how I used to be. That's how I've been my whole entire life, just always about being outside and running. And that was my thing. And last year, granted, I did some great things last year. I got my first degree.
That's what's up. Congratulations.
Thank you. I bought my first house.
Congratulations.
Did a lot of things last year that were first, but I was so focused on those things. I was like literally tunnel vision, all that. I started my podcast last year, everything. And I got so focused on all of that stuff to the point where I just lost myself, bro. Like I gained like 20 pounds. I've always been I'm still skinny, granted. But all my life I've always been in between 160, 165. I'm like 6'2", so I've always been tall and slender. Now I'm like 180. And I feel different. I'm like, I ain't never had this much weight on my body ever. And now I feel heavier, like I used to like the whole being light on my feet. Mom always be like, boy, you look good with that weight on you. I'm like, man, Mom, yeah, you say that, but I feel better, when I was how I used to be, that 160, 165 felt good, because at that time I was always exercising and running. I felt like I took better care of myself. And now, yeah, people see all the great things that I'm doing. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely do feel like I accomplished a lot of things last year, but internally, I feel like I could be better. mentally, I feel like I could be better. And just you saying that, about that exercise, man, I think that's, like another thing I feel like God had you say just for me, something that I'm going to take from this. I need to do more of that, and man, I appreciate you, bro. Like for real. Like I feel like that was God speaking to me when you say that right there, man. But last thing, man, if you could give yourself one piece of advice, the 18-year-old version of Kervin, what would that one piece of advice be? Knowing what you know now. Knowing what you know now.
You put one of my therapeutic questions on me. Oh man, it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff that I can say, but I'm gonna put it here. I would write out my plans.
Yeah.
That kind of goes into manifestation. That goes into faith and really believing that you can do the things that you want to do. You can acquire those goals or set goals and actually accomplish it. There was a research that was done by Harvard Business School that I hold kind of close to me now. And it took Harvard students over the course of, I think it was 10 years. And it took 3 sets of students who came to Harvard, no goals in mind. I guess it's almost like Harvard was their goal. They made it to Harvard. It was like, I'm just going to do whatever. And then they had a second set of students who came to Harvard, had goals in mind, but that was just it. They had goals in mind. And then they had a third set. And that third set was they had goals in mind and they wrote those goals down. Right. And this is business school. So, those kids who never wrote anything down, that was them. They did what they did. The kids who had goals in mind, but they didn't write them down, if I'm not mistaken, they made twice as much in their career as the ones who didn't.
Wow.
And the ones who actually had goals and wrote them down, not just had them, but had the goals and wrote them down, which eventually leads you to writing a plan out, right? Mm-hmm. They made 10 times as much as the second group. 10 times as much. So writing these things down leads you to set up a plan, have a thought process every day. Even with, you say you started your podcast last year. I started mine last year, at the end of last year. And I did vision board for the first time this year. Yeah. Right. Part of that vision board was certain numbers for my podcast. See if I make it. But I'm nowhere near the numbers that I want to be right now. Mm-hmm. But the stuff that I'm doing to try to get those numbers and doing legitimately. I'm not trying to cut corners. I'm not paying nobody to go out there and do this, do that. Like I'm doing these things. I'm working hard to do this. And then I had a vision or I had some things written down for my actual business. I'm doing these things, working towards them. And, I want to have a business and I want to do this. So, and I've seen in the past, I just never done it from a business standpoint. I have written things down in the past. I've written them in a prayer. I've written just down for myself outside of a prayer. But I've seen when you write those things down, it's almost like it's almost as if it's written in stone. That is literally a part of me. This is really what I want to do. And it amazes me how if you don't accomplish that goal, for me, if you don't accomplish those goals, how close you come to them, or how you see them actually when it actually becomes a goal that you accomplish, you see how it develops. And you don't have control over all of these things, but you just see it unfolding before your eyes. And it's like, I even asked myself, why I don't do this more often? Why I don't write things down every single day as opposed to just writing it down sporadically?
Yeah.
But if I had to tell my 18-year-old self, I would say that write it down. Write down my plans, write down my goals, and start at that age to the point where, as I continue, I get older, I just continue to get better at it.
Wow, that's real, man. That's real. Great stuff right there, man. Well, guys, we come to an end of this podcast, man. Listen, you blessed me, my brother. I definitely appreciate it, man. Everything you said. And I always say this. I know people that do listen to this podcast probably say I say the same stuff every time. But man, listen, everybody I bring on this podcast, I learn something from. Like this right here is like, Dad, can we talk is therapy for me? Like, man, listen, I just love to have these conversations with likewise brothers, man. Just it just, man, this is does so much for me to be able to get this, and now I challenge myself to go and apply these things that I learned in these podcasts, from other men, apply it in my marriage and apply it to, my relationship with my children. And man, bro, you gave me so much that I could do to be better as a dad, And I always say the same. This also, Dad, Can We Talk was never about perfect dads. It was never about, dads that got it all together, because none of us know it all, And so, but these are about dads that have experiences, and we share our experiences and learn from one another, man. So I can truly say that I learned something today, man. I learned a lot, and I definitely appreciate you taking your time to come on with me, man.
Good deal. Good deal, man. Thank you for having me on. Hey, thank you for accommodating me. I appreciate that, man. Just keep doing what you're doing, man. I don't know how you come up with the concept, where the concept come from, but I love it. I love the title of it. I love your energy behind it. I hope if anybody try to take it and steal it from you and duplicate it, I hope they continue to wet the bed on themselves until they give it back to you. Because this is dope, man, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Before you leave, give the people your social media handles where they can find your podcast.
Speaking with Gravity is my podcast, and I have two other co-hosts. Like I said, I started it last year. Started it by myself. I didn't feel like I did it justice, solo dolo. So I have two other colleagues that I consider not only colleagues, but they're friends of mine, and they're pretty darn good therapists as well. But we have a podcast called Speaking with Gravity, where we talk about how everything affects everything with regard to mental health. And even though we talk about mental health, it's not like we're talking about depression and anxiety all the time. Like I was talking to him offline, we talked about the movie Malcolm and Marie. We talk about living with Wild Black. So we have like just different things that we talk about. Sometimes some of them are heavy hitters, and some of them is just kind of casual conversations, but with the mental health spin. So check us out on your favorite platforms: YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Then we're on Pandora too, Anchor. So just check us out whatever you receive your media. Speaking with Gravity, we're on Instagram and on Facebook.
Yes, sir.
And from there, you can contact me in any other way, because I think I have my Linktree link in there.
Okay. So yeah, y'all heard it from my man himself, man. Go follow his podcast, Speaking with Gravity, on all platforms that are streaming podcasts. If y'all like this episode, if this is your first time listening to this, man, continue to follow us. I thank all my faithful listeners out there, man. Those that have been following from the beginning, man, y'all continue to stay tuned, man. We got plenty of other dads. I got a list that could go for another 2 years right now, man, of nothing but great dads from right here in the community of Gainesville, Florida. But I'm definitely reaching out to all different communities, man. So man, y'all continue to keep it posted, man. You know, we're not stopping. We're gonna continue to keep this thing pushing, man. We're gonna continue to change this narrative that's been surrounding uh, in the media for the longest. We will no longer allow that to go on, man. So, man, Kervin, man, I definitely appreciate you, my man, and continue to do what you're doing, bro.
Appreciate you.
All right, Dad, can we talk? We out.
Saying you couldn't take it. It ain't your fault, me